Hi, I'm Catherine Llewellyn, the host of the podcast. You can find out all about Truth and Transcendence on truthandtranscendence.com. And you can find out all about me on beingspace.world, where you will find my online coaching offering, as well as my UK-based workshops. The Freedom of Spirit workshop for liberation and empowerment, the Pellower Radical Shift in Consciousness workshop for spiritual expansion, and transformational coaching for exploring the mind-body-spirit connection on the expansive path. You can also support the podcast by actually making a donation. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Truth and Transcendence. You can find all our episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. So I'm delighted today to welcome back special guest Roy Coughlan, who's returning to the show. And the previous episode with Roy, we talked about truthfulness, which is a very big part of what Roy is doing in his work. And if you like our conversation today, then do go and check out episode 160. Roy is the host of 6 podcasts, and he's a podcast coach. And several of his 6 podcasts are in the top 0.5%, which is really impressive. And Roy is also my coach, my podcast coach, and I can heartily recommend him. And he's great fun to work with. And he knows what he's doing. So I think that's enough gushing over Roy before saying you can find Roy at roycoughlan.com. And Roy, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
And thank you very much for inviting me, Catherine.
Excellent. So before I get into the questions I'd like to ask you today, would you like to give, for any of the listeners who don't know anything about you, would you like to give them a little bit of who is Roy Coughlan?
I'm Irish, born in Cork in the south of Ireland. I kind of was a serial entrepreneur, so from 9, washing cars, 11, delivering newspapers, 14, cutting grass, 18, selling motorbikes, studied construction economics and management, then started working for a mechanical contractor in Ireland, 2 companies, and then moved to Poland, and I was doing real estate, done a lot of real estate, then got knocked out, lost everything. I had a lot of properties, 3 in Ireland, a lot in Poland, and kind of, instead of making 5 million, was personally liable for 5 million euro, we can say, because it was about 20 million zloty. Overcame that, and then that was kind of my journey from that. And I've been involved with a lot of companies. I've had I can check, it was 20. It could be more because sometimes you forget these things. I tried to track it down, a lot of different sectors. And now, as you say, podcasting. So I'm, as you mentioned, coaching, but also helping people get on shows. And I've got a virtual assistance business as well, and BrainGym.fitness with Arnold Becks, who was on your show, and it was a wonderful conversation.
Oh man, yeah.
And basically it doesn't mean that that's all I'm doing, but I update everything and put it on the Roy Coughlan. So next year, you don't know what else I'll be doing.
Well, indeed, watch the space. So something I've always been curious about with you, Roy, is right from the beginning, you said at the age of 9, you was an entrepreneur from the beginning. Now, I'm a British person, so to British people, sales is a dirty word, and if you're trying to get a business going, you're a filthy capitalist. That whole sort of attitude. What do you think it was? Any idea how it was that you, even right from the beginning, just kind of got into that way of being creative without kind of holding yourself back in doing that? Or did you hold yourself back, I suppose?
No, I think once I was born, I took the scissors off the doctor, cut the umbilical cord myself, and then from there on, it was all upwards.
But did you then slice the umbilical cord into bits and sell it to people?
Yeah, I went to the pharmacy, big pharma, to do their testing with that.
So it's always just been completely natural to you.
Yeah, and it's a strange thing because I class myself as ambivert, like very shy at one stage, extremely shy, but didn't have a problem going into a house saying, do you want to buy a newspaper? Do you want your grass cut? That was okay. But it was more kind of like the public speaking kind of thing, or speaking in front of a group, that terrified me. And I think that came to being in school, standing in front of everybody. You just get terrified. You're learning the language. You make a bundle, you start stuttering, everyone's laughing, and then you just feel, I don't like that. So I kind of I'm not sure if we discussed that on our last conversation, but
No, we didn't.
I was like 45 when I decided, because it was more my mission. When I lost everything, I saw so much corruption. And then I decided that was my mission to kind of expose this. But I also realized I needed to be a good speaker to get my message out. So when I came back, I joined the Toastmasters. And how shy I was, I had to bring people with me to hold my hand, as the baby as I was, to go to a Toastmaster meeting. I said, this is great. And they said, yeah, it's good, but we don't have time. And I was too shy to go back on my own. And a new club opened. So I went to the new club because everyone's going to be new. They basically handed me the thing. Do you want to sign up? I said, yeah. Do you want to do a speech next week? Yeah. And from there on, I just kept doing speeches, joined the club that I was afraid to go to, formed my own club, became a coach of a Finnish club. And then I got into the final of 5 countries. I entered every competition. I got into I have loads of medals and stuff for that. For somebody that was actually shy. And then done open mic, TEDx and open comedy. And I was speaking at Mind Valley as well on the stage. And it was because I was kind of prepared, not nervous. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean that when I was doing speeches, I wouldn't be nervous. But if you said to me, Roy, you need to come over, stand in front of 1,000 people and do a speech on the thing, I know I could do it. Whereas before I said, not in a million years. And it was like, that's a story we tell ourselves. We have a crutch and we stick to the crutch and stop doing that. And it's the same with diagnosis and everything. Oh, he's ADHD, he's this, he's that. And then they use that as an excuse. And I think we have to stop doing that.
I 100% agree. The minute somebody says, I've got a diagnosis, I immediately say to them, well, who told you that? And
how much did he charge you?
Exactly. And let's just look at what that means. Oh, it means something weird going on in your heart. Well, we knew that. But that's interesting. So when you said about when you decided to go and learn to speak, speak to groups and things, it sounded a bit like you actually had a purpose for doing that. Is that the case?
Yeah. So I went to an event, and the event was What's Your Quest? It was a Mind Valley event. It was A-Fest. And it was just at that event, I said, what's my mission in life? What's my purpose? And I was like, yeah, all right. I saw so much corruption with bailiffs, with courts, with banks, with everything you can think of. And I'm like, this isn't good because it's an international thing. And there's so many families breaking up, people throwing in the towel, unfortunately. I said, I need to expose this. And that was and at the same event, there was 2 brilliant speakers. Vishen Lakiani, who's like one of the founders of Mind Valley, and Eric Edmeades, who was actually on my podcast, brilliant speaker as well. And they kind of inspired me. And I was like, yeah, I can see how they can touch you with words. And that was my purpose when I came back. I said, yeah, I need to do that.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a really powerful observational insight, which is sometimes when we feel we can't do something, just going, oh, well, let's make sure I can do that, maybe isn't enough unless we've got a reason to do it, and you had a reason to do it. And I've certainly found that in my life. I've learned all sorts of things in my life, not because I've got nothing else to do, because I actually had a reason to want to do it and try and do it. And then, as you say, the purpose was stronger than the fear. I think that's what you were saying, wasn't it?
Yes. Absolutely.
And there's something else you said to me in a conversation a little while ago about turning fear to care. Do you remember that thing you were talking about? Would you like to say something about that?
I suppose what I'm not sure exactly what I said on the thing, but I mean, if I just by kind of saying that word, that if we're living in fear, it's not serving us. And what do we want to do in life? And do we want to make the place a better world and to care for different things? And it's like, sometimes you'll be attacked for that. And it's like, don't let it bother you. Like it only hurts you if you accept it. Because a lot of times I've seen podcasters that are doing similar to me, exposing stuff, and they just said, no, I can't handle it. I laugh when I see some of the comments. It's just like, what's going on in their life that they have to be so nasty? And I don't engage. There's no point. It's like me talking to the wall there. There's no point. And unfortunately, a lot of people think they can change somebody's mind. So don't. And the people that get the message or hear when they need to, that's the way I feel it. Like, it's not about the numbers. It's put it out there and it will land in someone's lap. And sometimes somebody might be on the fence thinking about something, and you'll explain it in a certain way that the penny will drop and they'll go, oof. And later they'll thank you, and maybe they'll start listening to your different shows. Maybe never see the person, and it could be a ripple effect with the whole family. So just I mean, once you care, I think that's the most important, no matter what you're doing. It's like, even your job, like, if what you're doing, is it making society better? Because, like, we could remove a lot of the jobs. Like, if we look at the regulation and everything and go back 100 years, how many of these regulations were there? And did it actually make such a massive difference? So it's kind of like, is your job doing good or bad to society? And then maybe look in the mirror and say, yeah, I'm part of the problem because I'm actually doing this.
Yes. I think that links to another question I was curious about asking you, because in recent years, there's been a lot more people coming forward and talking about things like corruption in whether that's in government or in institutions or in big pharma or all of these big institutions. And I think most people would accept that there is at least some corruption here and there, at the least. I think most people would recognize that, because by definition, statistically, there's going to be, at the very least. And I've noticed that the way people talk about these things varies very, very greatly. And some people, when they talk about it, frankly, I just find it depressing and annoying. And some people, when they talk about it, it's too weak. It doesn't make the point. And something I find about when you talk about it on your Awakening podcast in particular, you seem to have found a middle ground. You seem to have found a way of exploring some of these topics and not being annoying, but also being strong enough to make the point. I wonder whether the thing you were saying just now about realizing that you can't change people's minds might be connected in with that. What do you think?
No, definitely. And I think it's the Irish accent as well, as kind of, it doesn't sound it as depressing, maybe. That's what's helping. What I've learned is, like, if we look at going back to 4 years, we won't mention the poison dart because, yeah, that can even be blocked or whatever. But we've houses falling out. And when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I kind of take them to where I was and my journey. That even in Ireland, I thought the government was good and they were looking after everything. And then I'll explain the different things that I've done. And I'm just dropping little notes, because it's not point in me like giving you 500 things. It's like, even in coaching, yourself in coaching people as well. Like, if I give you 20 things, you just get overwhelmed and you just walk away. And it's the same with this. You can't overdo it. So, like, we do a weekly call as well, myself and Ireland, and we do a few little things, but we try to touch on good news and everything. And it's just a kind of story. And sometimes it's just him saying it and then me saying it from a different angle, or just like one of the things. And I learned this from public speaking. I've done hundreds of speeches and I used to never repeat anything. And then I'd see the likes of Robert Kiyosaki and a lot of them, and they're just saying the same thing for like 30 years. And I heard that, but not everybody did. And sometimes people need to be reminded. So sometimes you might say, I don't want to say this, I've already mentioned it. But the reality is, sometimes people need to hear something about 20 times before the penny drops. And it's not insulting them by thinking that. It's just like, we're all like that. So it's kind of like, oh, I know that, but are you doing it? So you don't know it. Unless you're doing it, then you know it. So you have to kind of look. So, and it's like never going, you're an idiot, you got a job, or you're this, you're that. It's like, I have friends that have got all the different things. I've got friends that think I'm a nut job because of the trails that are in the sky, and we can laugh and joke about it. And I think everybody should be able to do that. And because of that, then I'm conscious that people have a belief system. They're going on to AI, they're going on to search engines, and because of the way the algorithms work, they're getting a totally different feed to what I do. And they're reinforcing their belief system. And then they find people that are kind of believing with them. So they'll have 10 people that are like, so then when they look at me, they go, rise up the fair. So I'm conscious of that. So I'm never attacking them. So every time I'm talking about something, like, for example, no, the UK, we mentioned it last week. The UK has said they're going blocking out the sun because of climate. I had covered that a good while ago, because the freedom of information, there was a document that they admitted that. So, like, a lot of people say that that's not happening, that's contrary. That's just proved it. That's just proved, they're actually coming out saying, yeah, we're doing that. And I never go, and kind of point at somebody, or like, it's okay. But what I have found is a few people have actually said, I wish I didn't do this. Or people that even thought I was wrong with, say, the trails. And now they're going, oh my God, I'm seeing it now. Like, there's a good few people. And I think it's like, me and my son, we can see straight away. Again, like I record it, and I'm recording it just kind of for my own purpose, that I want to eventually take a case against the city or the country, but I'm not doing it on my own. And that's one thing that I've kind of learned as well, that because I've tried that. I've tried attacking the city for different things that they do, and it's like, it's so easy to take one person out. But if you can get a lot of people together, that's when it changes. So I've learned that don't be fighting all these different battles, but just kind of start building your files and start planning everything and be ready for it. And just learn your power as well. Like, that's another thing that I've learned, is kind of sovereignty, because we're born and people think, yeah, the government is my boss and controls me, and everybody says, you move there, you do this. And it's like, the most powerful thing you can do in the world is understanding your sovereignty. You were born free, you're a free person, and you don't look at a judge, you don't look at a police officer, you don't look at a doctor and think, oh, look at them, they have power. And once you start doing that, because unfortunately, yeah, there might be 5% that are actually nice and good and care for humanity, but the rest of them, they're bought and paid for, and they don't care. They will do anything they want. And you see that in protests, even in London. They attack peaceful protesters. And you're going, what normal person does that? They're not normal, because they bring people into positions that are abusive. And that was like one of the things I've learned as well. There's a book called Corruptible, and it's kind of saying about Denmark that the people that go into government aren't corruptible because they have a good government system. Whereas in other countries, people that are abusive kind of go into that. And same with even police. They were saying that, like, a lot of the police are abusive to their partners. So hence why they go into a position where they can beat the crap out of somebody, even if they don't deserve it. I'm not talking about somebody that's attacking somebody. Yeah, they do deserve a club on the head. But, when you've been into innocent protesters, that's not right. And I like to kind of look at the psychology of everything as well, and just kind of put things together and say, okay, what's going on here? There's something happening. Because normally when they're doing that, it's over here, they're doing something. And you have to be a few steps ahead of them. And it's just trying to understand that.
Yeah. Exactly. Sorry about the phone just doing something there for no reason.
I thought it was your cat that you were...
He was playing a little dance, wanted to join in. So, no, I totally get what you're saying. And when I lived in Oxford, some of my friends did security on the nightclubs. So me and my friends would be wandering around at 3 o'clock in the morning and just stopping and chatting outside these clubs with these security guys. And some of them were friends with some of the local police, and who were young guys. These were like in their early 20s, let's say. And they told me that a lot of these friends of theirs did have difficulty with anger management and dealing with that for reasons that were not their fault, probably. And so for some of them, actually going into the police helped them, because they then learnt some skills to manage themselves. But for some of them, it was just a place where they could actually act that out, but with a badge, which is very, very sad indeed, because that doesn't end well for them or for their families either. So that's something that troubles me, when there's a structure that actually reinforces what you might call the shadow in us, the dark side of us, rather than reinforcing the light side of us, and that's one of the reasons I love independent media and podcasting, because it's a channel for people like you and other people who want to put out a message that actually is encouraging to people, and helps people claim their sovereignty. And so, but you were not originally a podcaster, were you? When did you start podcasting?
2018 is when I started.
2018. So it's only about 7 years, but you've done really, really well. So how did you decide to get into podcasting?
It was like when I decided to kind of expose stuff. I said I'll write a book. So I ended up writing a book. I could sit there. I don't know if I ever show you that. So I'm probably not showing it, because I have
no idea about this.
Yes, but basically what I did is I printed about 20 copies. I never released it, and I got it into the hands of a lot of people, and 10 people said I'd be whacked if I released it, because I had a lot of stuff. I'm talking about the stuff that people are only talking about now in that. And I didn't really care. I said, no, I want to get up. But my mom said, what about your kids? And then I was kind of, fair enough. And the strange thing is, when the craziness happened in the last few years, I said, yeah, maybe it's time now to get it out. And I had a lot of links showing where I got information from, all taken down. And the same with a lot of the people doing natural health and stuff on my shows, websites taken down. I mean, I've been attacked. I mean, my YouTube for The Awakening was removed, Linktree, even LinkedIn at one stage, and Facebook just censored and posts removed. It's just constant. And I just kind of, I mean, I kind of used it with BitChute. I took a screenshot of LinkedIn and of YouTube when they'd done that, and my BitChute just took off. Then, like, it's, so I kind of used it against. And I didn't. There's no point in getting upset, because then they win if you get upset. So don't let it get you.
Yeah.
You control it yourself.
Yeah. So it was really like a way that you could communicate without putting yourself at really bad risk, and you could get the message out. And I think that was part of what encouraged me to do podcasting as well. That it was a way I could get my voice out with whatever I wanted to share, without interference. And I think it's just wonderful that this exists. You've got 6 podcasts. And when I look at that, I think, okay, how does because one of the issues I find I sometimes have and other people have is either I've got no inspiration to do anything I can't come up with an inspiration, like, for example, a podcast idea, or I've got too many ideas, and which one am I going to choose? Right. So I'm just overwhelmed. And you've got these 6, and I've heard you explain how they each started. They each started for a perfectly reasonable reason. But then when I look at the 6, I think, how on earth did you juggle all the things you're interested in? And, you've only got 24 hours in the day like the rest of us. How did you juggle it such that you came up with just the right number of podcasts with just the right selection of topics?
I don't know. I started off with the speaking because I said, like, because I had a lot of people with all the competitions, I said this would be good for doing that. And so they weren't all at once. It was kind of like then kind of 6 months later or whatever, there was the meditation and the Polish, and then the 4th one was The Awakening. So they took their time, and I had all my systems in place, and I kind of knew what to do, and I knew how to get the guests, and everything was okay. So it wasn't a case of I took on too much and then I was overwhelmed. It was like, okay, I'm doing this. And even now, like, say, to speak, I've got such a backlog that I've kind of turned off the tap of people coming in, and then I'm just going through it. So I have plenty. And then if I need more people, I just kind of reach out. There's always like agents, just constantly people reaching out and kind of looking. And it's strange actually with The Awakening. There's people that reach out and they want to do it. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll look at it, and I go, grand. And then like a day before, one time even 30 minutes before, it's like they probably listened to one episode, and it was kind of like, oh, I listened to what you're doing, and yeah, I don't want to go on the show. And they start kind of getting, and like one person was on the meditation podcast, and a couple of days later, like, was really annoyed. He said, I just saw what you're doing on The Awakening, and I can't believe I went in your show. And it was like, they get upset because it's going against their belief system. And you should kind of look in the mirror if you get angry over something like that because of a different belief system. And it's never me just throwing it out there. I get specialists, I get scientists, I get doctors, I get different people on the show as well. It's not just my opinion, but I listen to shows, I read, I've read thousands of books. I read about 100 a year. I'm constantly always learning. But even if I read something, I know that. Like, if someone can write a book, doesn't mean it's true. So I never take it from gospel. So you have to start looking at a few places. But I never get upset with someone if they have a different belief system, because sometimes people, you can have 80% that you agree on. There's just something. But unfortunately, if it's just that one thing, then they put up the guardrail. And you have to kind of learn, have compassion, and not kind of start fighting. So even if somebody's getting aggressive, just take it on the chin and just, it's not your fault. Don't react to it.
Yes. And why is it that you don't get upset when people have a completely different belief system from yours? So in a minute, I'm going to ask you about these trails in the sky thing. So you mentioned that a lot of people think you're absolutely bonkers because you talk about that. So, and you're sort of grinning at me now. And you said you can laugh about it. So how come you're one of these rare people who doesn't really mind when someone else, particularly with something like that, which, if that's true, then that could be very dangerous for human beings. So how come you're not upset when someone else doesn't see that?
It was like, I remember one time a guy said it on one of our shows. It was about something else, but it was like, he was saying it was like a frequency of radio. So if I changed the channel, we're both listening to a channel and I change the frequency, I'm listening to a different channel and you can't hear that. So it's I think it's the same with seeing. Like if I watch a movie, even my son is the exact same. I see green screen and it ruins it for me. Like, cause I can see green straight away. And most people can't. And now I even see the trails have been put in. They've paid millions to go into older pictures and put in trails to make it look like it's normal. So when you know they're doing that, why are they doing that? Why would you bother? Why would you spend money to do something like that? And there's even in, say, the States, there's 31 states now that are trying to ban this. Apparently Tennessee stopped it. And the strange thing was, and people then started saying, oh, we see the skies are clear and everything. When I started researching, because I said, I want to figure out how they've done it so I can do it here in Poland, because it's constant here. And everything was like conspiracy theorist. Everything was like as if you're an idiot for believing in this. And like, this is fact. I actually had the Senate document that they passed. So the people that control the world, they're orchestrating everything so that even if you're curious, you go, that's why. So then I understand why people think that I'm the crazy one because I believe in this, because they've just done their research and they believe what they see. The same with ChatGPT. I've got that line so many times. Or people go, Alexa, what is that? And they just assume it's true. And that's so dangerous. It's like, it's just going out and it's finding some site and repeating what they see on that.
Yeah.
So if it would tell me something totally different to you, or like just say we had a totally different belief system. And what I found as well is, because I've read a lot on, say, the jab and different people on the show. And when I was doing searches for that, it was like really pushing it, saying how good it is. Then I give it information and it would kind of change its mind a bit, but still try to push it. And it was like, this is bias. This is totally biased. And I've seen it so many times that the information that they're giving, whether it's 5G or whatever, and like there's information out there if you ask what you have to do, whether it's a search engine or AI, you have to really question it. So what I would suggest to anyone, no matter what they believe, ask for both and then go, why am I getting totally different answers? As if you're for it and you're against it. And you should look at that for everything. And then just kind of go, who's behind it? And just because it's like scientists, who's paying these scientists? Because a lot of the time, science it's paid. That's like they lose their funding unless they give the answers that are meant to be there. And there's a load of doctoring as well, like say even with test trials and everything. It could be 3,000 people and they'd isolate the 95% and then you're getting the figures of 5%. I mean, that should never happen, but that's what happens. And people aren't aware of that. But so question everything and question it from their side and your side. And then just try to come to a conclusion. Because my life, I've totally changed. There's times I believe in something and then I get information and I go, that's interesting. I want to check this. And then I change it and I go, all right, like education and everything. I look at everything and I go, why is it like that? And how did it become like that? And who's pulling the strings and where's the money going? And usually when you follow the money and you see who's behind it, you kind of understand what's really going on.
Yes. That just reminded me of something. When I was at school, I was sent, up until the age of 13, I was sent to, in quotes, a good school. And that basically meant a private school that was expensive. In my opinion, it was a bad school. But it was a school, right? And then most of the other children in the area were sent to a state school, which you didn't have to pay for. And in the quote good school and the private schools, we used to have debates, and in it, like we would be trained how to do a debate, where one person has one point of view, the other person represents the opposite point of view. And we were taught how to argue both sides. And then sometimes you'd have to swap over, and argue both sides and really listen. In all the state schools, they didn't have that. And I remember thinking this seems to suggest that they think all the people with the rich families should learn how to do this debating thing. And all the people in the less wealthy, middle class, lower class families don't need to actually think things through. And even as a child, I thought that was, pretty obvious in the way that was done. So I think you're absolutely right. But I think it's really important we've got people like you who've got this kind of, whether you call it psychological, energetic, emotional equanimity, in relation to other people's opinions, so that you can talk about it in a way that people can actually listen and take it in. Otherwise, I've had people who actually agree with the same things I agree with really annoy me because they won't shut up, banging on about it and shouting at everybody. And I'm going, look, please stop. They go, don't you agree with it? Yes, I do. But I don't agree with being shouted at the whole time. It's just exhausting. So,
And the other thing is, a lot of times people, when they know what's going on, that becomes the topic in the house. And make sure you step away and just have a normal life, because it becomes tiring, even if you all agree on something. It's like that's something we kind of agreed at one stage with my mum, and like, we're not going to talk about any of the things going on. Let's just enjoy life, And even at one stage there with my son, I was like, the 5G was annoying me, and I've seen how sneaky it was. They were putting them in churches and inside in signs and shopping centres and everything, and I spotted a mile away or top of a building. Because like a microwave, they've the whole top of an apartment block full of these things. They're high radiation frequencies. And then we just said, we're looking at this too much. So then we started looking for beautiful things. And then we saw it, like the flowers behind you. So it, even now, I see straight away the clouds going over me. And it's like, also, like when I'm like today, when I drop them off at school, I walk around the park and I just look at the ducks. I look at the trees. Even though I know that's going on above me, all my energy doesn't go there. And make sure you don't do that in your house. Yeah, we see what they're doing there online, but make sure you have the games, the fun, get cards, just do things and admire the beauty in life instead of what's bad with it. Because if we keep looking at what's bad, we attract more bad. So let's start looking at the things that are better.
I think that's such good advice, Roy. Honestly, such good advice. Years ago, I've got these free ebooks on my website. One of them is about dance. And I was collecting all the reasons people had why they thought they couldn't dance. And this one woman said, well, I can't go dancing, not while there's people suffering in the world. Because people were suffering, she thought she could not go out and enjoy dancing. And I know, and what was really ironic about it was when she told me this, she was in the process of giving me a massage. She was a massage therapist. And I thought, this just does not make...
Keep your bad juju off me, it's
weird combination of, you believe in giving people a massage, and it's okay for someone to have a massage with people suffering, but it's not okay for you to go and dance with people suffering.
But that's the same thing. It's like a belief system, or you've conditioned yourself to have a certain thought process. And it's like you just need to keep stepping back and keep taking, it's the onion, take the layers off. Why do I think this? What why is this triggering me? Why have I become that? And you can change anything. You just have to make a decision. Okay, I want to change, and I just want to find out why is this triggering me?
Yeah. So do you mind if I ask you something about these trails?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. So, personally, I find the idea of people putting chemicals into the sky very frightening, because I'm very, very fussy about what I put into my body and, the energies around me and things like that. So, but someone told me the other day that governments have been doing spraying in the skies since the Second World War, I think. So what I'm curious about is, what's their purpose in doing it? Does anyone know what their purpose in doing it is?
You get all different answers, right? You get, just to have the rain in areas that is needed, and now it's like, blocking the sun and everything. From what I see, and you can see all the planes, you can see sometimes they come down and they forget to turn it off, so it's doing it. So, like, for anyone that's saying, it's contrails, it's not. There's so much information. There's even people went up and they took samples, and it's all metals. So I believe that it's all done to make us ill, because then we're not attacking them. Because the one time that you stand up is when you're feeling strong and healthy. And most people aren't. Like, you're getting sinus things. You think, most people are thinking, it's pollen and all this stuff. Like here now in Much, I haven't seen a blue sky this year yet, even though it looks, most people say it is blue. It's not. It's a shaded thing, and I see them spraying, and I have recordings, and I've started creating now a Facebook page for this. You see the line, you see a few of the lines, and then you just see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it joins up, and it just becomes like this cloudy stuff, and then you see all the gunk falling down. So that's going in your lungs. It's going on in the water. It's going on the food. It's impossible to get away from it. And why would the governor DeSantis come out and say we're stopping this? Like, he would not go out and say that if it didn't exist. You wouldn't have the freedom of information saying, we're doing it to block the sun. Who are they to block the sun? First they'd sell people solar panels. Hey, this is good. And then they block the sun, so your solar panels doesn't work. But I think it's to make us ill, all the different diseases. I mean, if you look at Alzheimer's, it's gone through the roof. These are all metals. So they're going in, like, you can't avoid it. And I mean, even with me and my son, sometimes we go in the car and we both go into a sneeze attack. Like, that's not normal. We just go into a sneeze attack, eyes running. My friend Arnold, who you've had on your show, he's a Dutch guy that's moved to Romania. Yesterday he sent me a picture of the fog. This, like, the whole area of fog, and here as well. Like, I'm 18 years here, and it's in this year I've seen more fog than I did in the 18 years. It's all orchestrated as well, and that's basically where they can bring it down lower. And the same thing, like, you can't avoid it. This is going into you. So there's people that have tested this. They've tested the waters, the metals that gone through the roof. So we have proof of it. And I think it's make us ill. So then we go to the big pharma, the doctor, get more prescriptions, get more ill. And then it's a kind of chain reaction, because most people, unfortunately, are on a medication. Medication has a side effect, which in turn gets more. And eventually, like, people are like, I'm really ill. But it's all orchestrated. And how they're getting away with it, I don't know. I would like to just even the mayor here, every time she does a post, like yesterday, there was a post of beautiful flowers and Much. I said, yeah, the flowers are beautiful. Pity about the skies that you're allowed to get. And I keep doing it. I mean, I get kicked out of groups and everything. And I just because maybe that will make someone else think. But there was, in this kind of shows you the thought process of some. In Ireland, Cork, there's 2 different radio stations, and it's the second biggest city in Ireland, and I don't know which one it was, but they had posted about a car park space near the university, outside parking, 25 grand. And there was a big debate about it. And I just wrote, it would be a lot better if you start discussing about the chemtrails, which are in the sky, and the abuse I got, like calling me everything. There was 80 kind of emotions. Most were laughing, but there was a few that were actually thumbs up and hearts, and someone saying he's dead right and all this. But it was like 75% maybe against me, which means people don't even understand it. And I see it, like when I went back to Ireland, I was like, I could see it. And I'm just wondering, because when I was younger, I used to go to school with a short pants and a t-shirt. We had the proper seat. You go out sunbathing. You don't get that anymore. And I know the UK is kind of similar. But you don't see it because you see the clouds. They're spraying over it. I see it the whole time. I can see the trail. It's like big, long trail, and it gets bigger. Why are they doing it? Who's doing it? Everyone that's connected with it should be in jail. I mean, they don't have the right to affect our atmosphere, and stuff. Plants are dying. I mean, like when you were younger, you're driving your car, or me in a motorbike, and you see the bees splatter, all the insects splattering. You look at your car. When did you last see that? Like, all the insects are gone. So they're doing all these different things, which has a knock-down effect with the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But there must have been some people involved with it who thought they were doing it for a good reason at some point.
I think maybe to bring rain to areas or something like that, because perhaps, like sometimes there's a drought and farmers need the rain to grow, and maybe for doing things like that. But the fact that they're kind of blocking out, like, why is there a haze here the whole time? Today, no. Like, I mean, you can still see it as if, like, the sun is shining, but it's not the same as normal. And you look up, and there's no blue, 0 blue. It's like a cloudy, milky kind of thing. And the sun, no, like, I sun gaze. I love sun gazing. So I've always been doing sun gazing. And I don't wear glasses. I'm 52. So, like, I believe it comes down to that. You can do it in the morning and sunset, and it's safe. And now, even driving, it's like, it's reflective. And I was like, what's that? And it's like, because of the metals, it's reflecting on your thing. And they're doing it so brazenly. Like 2 days ago, on sunrise, they had about eight lines. And I recorded it. I have it on my channel where I'm showing it. And on sunset, they had another two going across. Like, that's taking the piss. You know, they're putting that out. They're going, look what we're doing. Even triangles. I've seen a triangle in the sky. They have the clouds done as a triangle. And you look in the UK, someplace, like, it's bad enough here, but I see it in Holland and UK, and it's like crisscross. And they're really doing it in the States as well. And like, it'll be brilliant that if they ban it in these 31 states that they're going for, because then it'll be a lot easier to fight it here when you go, hey, they've just banned this, they've proven this.
Yeah. I did not know that 31 states were working on banning it. I knew that some had banned it. And I think that's such good news, because when I look at it, I think, well, in a way, it matters less to me why they're doing it. It matters more to me what it's doing to us. You know, like if someone treads on my toe, it doesn't really matter whether they meant to or didn't mean to. My toe still hurts, right? And I want them to get off my toe. So I'm very lucky, because where I am, we get a lot of wind. And so that even when there is one of those trails, it gets sort of dispersed, you know, so we get a lot of open blue sky, which is a blessing. You know, we're out in rural Wales. But, you know, that can't be nice. And I've seen some of your, video clips on TikTok where you're showing these, and I'm thinking that's just really sad. You know, and you've got a young son, and he was not well recently. Didn't you say there was something about the whole school was...
Yeah, they were like, that was when the fog was coming down and the whole school was getting sick. And they were saying we might have to close the school down for a few days because it's so bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and the same thing, even with like, everything they're doing is kind of against us, like the swimming pool, the chlorine, every single thing. They know about it. They know what's healthy and what's not. And we're attacked. And it's like, I have to learn about law. I have to learn about health. I have to learn all these things. I shouldn't have to do that. The government is supposed to be protecting us and looking after us. And it's the opposite. It's like they're attacking us, and we have to protect ourselves. And the problem is, we're all trying to do that. And we've, as you said earlier, like, we've 24 hours in the day, and you rather not to be spending your time trying to research this and seeing how I can get out of this and how I can detox and get this crap out of my body. But unfortunately, we've got to.
Yeah. Well, luckily for the rest of us, Roy, we've got you doing research. And, you know, and there are other people I listen to who do research on all sorts of other things, you know, like financial and political and all sorts of other things that I am not going to research for myself. You know, and I'm doing sort of what you might call experiential research in my conversations every week with my guests, you know, where other people can tune into and pick up on things. So they didn't have to go and read all the books I've read. So I think a lot of us are actually gathering and processing information ourselves, which we can then share with other people. And I've got friends who know all about exactly where all the planets are, and the relationship between what this planet's doing and what these stars are doing, and the effect that might have on these energies or that. You know, they're the expert, and they'll tell me, so I don't have to research it. And I can, that explains why I feel really weird today. You know, it helps make sense of it. Fantastic. Well, thank you for explaining some of that, because that's really... So on your Facebook group about this, I can't remember if it's a group or a page, but your Facebook thing...
I think I've done it as a page. I thought it was a group because I was trying to get... I was hoping people... My main kind of purpose was invite 3 people in and everybody post, so that when you see it, you take a picture and you put it on, and then we can comment. And then the more that's done it, it's kind of making awareness. And you go, wow, I'm seeing this in 50 cities. It's not just, you know, because that's what's the problem as well. When someone sees something, they think there's something wrong with them. Why do I think differently to everybody else? And then when you kind of get people that are kind of getting this and understanding this, it just makes you feel a bit better, going, oh, yeah, I'm not nuts. This is really happening.
Yeah, you're right. It should be a group, I think. If it's not a group, then I think it should be. But and you're saying how to stop them. You're saying in the name of...
Yeah.
So how do we stop these?
Well, I mean, we've seen it in Tennessee that, you know, you get senators. So it's a case of elected officials. I mean, I'm not really wanting to voting because I don't think I think it's all corrupt, to be honest with you. I saw it in the Irish, like there's no way the people that got into power this time, because I don't know anybody who's supporting them. Everyone's against them, and yet they got better votes than the last time. So it's a case of go to your local councillors, even, because sometimes people don't realise the power of the councillors, and sometimes they know the councillors, and it's like, hey, look at this. This is your child is actually breeding it. Your child is doing, and if you get the councillors to bring it up, then you're getting places. And also, like, if we got 100 people, like, there's a lot of times I talk about stuff and everybody complain about, say, like the 5G on the school and everything, and everyone is, yeah, it's not good. And then you say, all right, let's do something about it, and they just turn around and walk away. So I've learned that it's very hard when you're kind of going into a boxing match against the city and the government on your own not to do that. But when you get brave souls that decide this ain't happening, if you've got 100 people that stands outside the mayor's office or some of the councillor's office, they take attention, and then people are looking at it and they're going, what's going on here? And it's just numbers. It's just a case of never abusive, never pushing your agenda, just making people aware, just kind of saying, this is what's going on. And like sometimes, like even say my awake, the amount of people that come up to me and go, thanks very much, I love what you're doing, thanks very much. But they never comment or anything because they're afraid they'll be marked. Don't be afraid, because that's what they want.
Yeah.
When you share something or comment, I'm not just saying with me, I'm saying with anyone that's like bringing out information that's actually helping the world. By commenting, sharing, just even giving a heart or something like that, you're helping. And by not, even though deep down you're happy what they're doing, it's like you're not helping them. So if you can't support them and get behind them, even by just sharing it, that's supporting them. And everyone can do something. And like, if you're afraid to stand up, but if you can share it, it could be 3 people shares along, and then you get your major leader who's going to get really gung-ho and people get behind them. So by sharing, you have a better chance of it stopping.
Yeah. And something I've noticed in the past, there have been occasions sort of historically where there's been something that everyone accepts as normal, and then some people start to think, actually, no, this is not, it might be normal, but it's not right. I can't think of a specific example at the moment. I'm sure you know of examples where the general public agreement has shifted, and then it gets to a point where the people who do have the power to change it, it's more embarrassing not to change it than to change it. Nobody wants this. We've got to stop pushing it. I mean, like that did happen with the in the last few years. With the whole jab thing.
And even say the monkeypox. If you look at the monkeypox, they tried to push that. People started taking the piss, started doing Snapchat videos of me being a monkey, and it stopped it straight away. If they didn't do that, that would have been the next thing that we were locked down for.
Yes.
People were like, nah, this isn't happening again.
Yeah.
And they don't realize how powerful people just putting a video of them looking like a monkey going, oh, I must have got it. Because it was like, we're not taking this bull. And that's what stopped it.
Exactly. There was no energy behind it anymore. So it couldn't continue. And I actually really believe that does work. Well, it's like, back in the day that marches, the marches up to London of the workers, trying to go, no, we need better conditions, and eventually people do listen. So one kind of a subtle thing around this is something I've experienced in myself, and I believe other people experience this, is a temptation to not look at certain things that are going on because we don't like what it feels like when we think about those things. We find it, I feel upset, or I feel scared, or I feel angry. I don't want to feel angry, those sorts of feelings. And I think quite often, I certainly noticed it during the last, that period, 2020 to 2022, there were a lot of people who just wanted, I just want to feel okay. I just want to feel okay. I don't want to think about whether this is really bad for my child. I don't want to think about it because that's just too horrible to think about. So what might you say to those people about how they can help themselves to sort of think about some of these things and not be too worried about how it's going to make them feel?
it's an important one because there's a lot of people suffering from anxiety, depression because of what's going on. And you have to touch in with yourself. So when you feel that it's triggering, then you find what makes you smile. Like for me, I look at comedies and things like that. Like my trade is comedians. Paul Smith in the UK, just, and I can watch that and he's abusing the people on the front stage and it's so funny. And then you switch off. So I'm totally in touch when I'm going down the rabbit hole and everything. I feel the emotion, I feel the pain, but I'm able to switch away. And if you can't do that, you need to find out why. And you need to kind of look what's actually, like, whether it's a walk in nature, grounding, painting, doing something, and then do that till you're okay. And then you can look again. But what happens is people going to do it and then they either keep doing it and then they're just miserable. And that's not helping anybody. And then they're kind of, like you said, they're just shouting the message as if like, I'm right, you're wrong. And it's all down to each person because you don't realize how powerful we are because like by you being standing in your own feet, your own ground, and you're all totally in control of your emotions, you're not coming across in anxious way or depressed way or something like that. And you're able to, it's not that we don't have a blues day or something like that. That happens. And it's like, then you take a step back and then you kind of touch in with yourself as well. So if you find that these things are triggering you, you have to realize, okay, it shouldn't trigger me. Why is it triggering me? Okay, what do I like in life? And then start doing that. Then you get out of the figure because you cannot have two emotions at once. You can't be angry and happy. So you just switch it. You can split it like that. It's like addiction or whatever. People say, oh, I go to a therapist for 20 years and I'll listen. Oh, brilliant businessman. The reality is you can do it yourself in a split second. You just make a decision. So you have to touch in with yourself and just do things like breathing, walking in nature, barefoot, sun gazing. Even some people say, oh, it's dangerous. I beg to differ, but just even swimming in the sea, different things, walking on the beach. And find what you love. There has to be things that you love. And if you don't love things, like ask yourself why. You need to start experimenting and just look at different things. And that way then when you're going down the rabbit hole and you find that you're getting triggered, step away. Don't keep going. Like you have to step away if you're finding that you're dreaming about it or that it's the topic of conversation all the time. Then you know that emotion has taken over you. It's like, let's call it a negative emotion. And you need to step away, that you become more in tune with yourself. So I don't think a therapist or anybody can do that. It's only you. You know how you feel. And you just have to find what, like it's music. Do you like music? Listen to that music. Do you like reading books? Like the amount of times I talk to somebody, I love reading books and everything. When's the last time you read it? I don't have time. I make sure I read books. I make sure I listen to podcasts. I'm still busy. I still do a lot of things. It's like, why, like we don't know when our day is over. You have to enjoy every day. So make sure you include everything that you love in your day. Like cooking, you like cooking. I love cooking. Make sure you're doing different things, experimenting, everything. You're not in a negative state when you're cooking if you enjoy cooking. And so start cooking, start getting experiment and stop talking about these things that affect you. So that's what I would say. Touch in with yourself.
Beautiful. Well, I think that's a beautiful place to wind up for today. And as you know, Roy, I can quite happily talk to you for hours and hours on end and have done before and will do again. So I always ask people towards the end, we've talked about a lot today and thank you so much for everything you brought to this conversation. Really amazing, very rich. Has there been a favourite part of this conversation for you today?
I think it's every time we talk, like the fact that you're watching different things that I'm doing and how it's said and how it's kind of connecting with people, that then can resonate with somebody and kind of understand. So you're looking at the triggers or different things, how reactions are. And just by discussing that, people can kind of, whether it's themselves or somebody else, they can then stop reacting differently by just understanding that. And I think what we discussed and few things like that can actually have a big impact. Like everyone listening can have some sort of, maybe they'll start looking up in the sky and go, oh, Roy's not crazy. Maybe he's right. And if you disagree, don't hate me for it. I don't hate you, no matter what you believe in. Do the same with people around you.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Roy. It's been such a joy having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Katrin.
So thank you, everybody, for listening and watching today. You can find all our other episodes on truthandtranscendence.com. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, share with your friends. And if you watch this on a video on YouTube or BitChute or Rumble or Odyssey, please comment on what we were talking about today. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. And thanks again, Roy Coughlan.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. It really helps if you give a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, a review, and share with your friends. If you're looking for transformational coaching or an intensive transformational weekend workshop experience, I can help with that. You can actually help the show by making a donation. Until next time, take care.